Welcome to Push Go, a podcast presented by Plum, where we highlight the defining moments that impact how we live and work. Today, I'm joined by consultant, author, and producer Lori Brooks. Lori is a financial sales operations expert, and she's host of the Small Business with Lori Brooks show. Today, you'll hear how Lori's experience as a single mother being diagnosed with Crohn's disease led her to find a means to create wealth without the overhead and share her knowledge with others. Lori, welcome to the podcast.
Rick, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We were talking about guests some time ago. You were on the top of the list. Listen, as we've talked over the years, it's such an amazing story. You're such a great person. So I really look forward to having 30 minutes with you just to talk one-on-one. So really have looked forward to this day.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been looking forward to it myself. I'm very honored that you think of me and thought of me in terms of inviting me to the show.
Yeah. Now remember, save all of your comments till the end of the podcast as you critique me. So no critiquing during the podcast because you're the professional here, which is great. But all kidding aside, gosh, it's been, I think it was around 2010, 2011 or so when we first met. Are you a long-term Bostonian? I mean, is that home for you?
That is born and raised.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah,
all your family from the area is still around as well?
They are. Most of the family lives right here in and around the city. And, we have family across the country, the Eastern Seaboard. We have family all over the globe. But the majority of, immediate family is still right here in the city.
Gosh.
So.
Well, hey, let's talk a little bit about your professional career getting started out. So when you think of that first job, not that first babysitting job, the first newspaper job, you think about that first job, what did you jump right into the insurance world? I was trying to think, how did you get your career started right out of school?
So I actually started off in the insurance industry as an associate financial rep. So I went ahead and was licensed in life, accident, and health insurance. And I was studying for my investment licenses. So that is the start of the professional industry, at that point. So,
Wow. Okay. And so is that one of those that, growing up for you, like you always knew that the financial world, not the accounting world, but truly finance and that type of engaging with folks, was that something that you knew as a young person that's what you wanted to do? Or is this something that you had influence from someone that said you would be great at this?
You know what? It's funny. When I was a kid, I actually thought it was going to be the medical industry. I did. I wanted to be a pediatrician. I thought I was going to be a pediatrician. My parents had picked up, one of those little physician home sets. So I had the little doctor's coat and my little name tag and so forth. So I thought I was going to be a pediatrician. And then as I got older, I got more interested in law. And I was thinking, maybe I'd become a lawyer. And as I got into high school and really started considering that as a career, and that kind of fell away as an interest. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll become an accountant. And that's kind of where the financial journey came from. So I actually went into school for accounting. So it was the finance industry, but it wasn't insurance end. It was more thinking that I would be in the tax area. And it's funny, there was an inspiration for that. My aunt actually worked for the IRS for many, many years. And as surprising as it is, she loves it.
It's not what the news would have you think.
No, exactly. And so it was a career that, to me, it was something that was of great interest. It was someone who I saw truly enjoyed what they were doing with life. Not just going to work and having that job that was paying the bills and so forth and supporting a family, but really enjoying what she was doing, even though it wasn't an entrepreneurial journey of any sort. Of course, that wasn't on my radar at that point. So, I thought I was going to be an accountant and then ended up in the insurance industry. So,
Wow. And so for those that have friends or have been in the insurance industry, once you get started, especially within a brand or a certain track,
mhm,
you can kind of plot out that 20, 25, 30-year track and say, this is what I'm going to
yes,
do. It's the book of business, it's the engagement.
mhm,
And
correct.
so about 8, 9 years, 10 years, I'm sorry, how long did you stay in that industry?
I was in the industry for 3 years prior to the diagnosis. You
Okay,
got
got it, got it. Okay,
it.
so you're still tracking along. This is what you're going to
You got it.
do.
Still
Uh,
starting, still building,
your
still
aunt is
growing.
aspirational. You could see it. You kind of saw the career
Hmm.
aspect of things.
Hmm.
And you jumped ahead of me. You said diagnosis, so we're going to jump right into that. So as we talk about defining moments here, for you,
Hmm.
you're on track, you're moving along, and you got some news you didn't want to hear.
You got it.
Yeah, so
You
let's
got it.
speak to that a little bit. That news, and that would have been 2009,
9,
2009. Yeah,
2009.
let's speak to
You
that a
got
little
it.
bit.
So I was, building the career, building the book of business, studying for the investment licenses and looking towards that end of the career. And I was diagnosed with Crohn's. So it was about a 6 month period. I was sick day in and day out. I was nauseous at all times, going to see physicians, every specialist you can imagine, every test you can imagine, CT scans, colonoscopies, MRIs, everything you can imagine. It took about 6 months prior to the diagnosis. And at that point, it was, a recognition of, okay, got to take a step back, and I was actually by the office itself, not by the agency, but by the office managers kind of requested that I take a medical leave because they could even see I wasn't healthy. I wasn't doing well. Self-care was not on the top of Lori's list
Well, the type of
on
industry
any
that you're
level.
in required you to always be on, right? And just to
Precisely.
have that energy, even to have conversations on the phone, it wasn't like you could just sit behind a keyboard and type. I mean, you're
Yeah,
engaging, so you have to be up. So I can see where it would just be draining for you, especially before you knew, because you're like, why can't I
precisely.
push through this?
Hmm. And let's add into that, Rick, at the time, I was a single mom. So my daughter was 7. So the added stress to everything, as you can imagine, Crohn's being a stress-induced illness, it was just a snowball effect. It was, the stress of the industry, the stress of, single parenting that compounded to create a scenario where I needed to focus on me. I needed to focus on my own health at that point. But it was also this pivotal moment where I thought I was building a career in this industry. I thought I was moving forward. And yes, I could go back to it. But did I want to be under this umbrella that I couldn't control? Did I want to be in a space that was not my own, that was, someone else's choice as to whether or not I would be moving forward with the career? And that was huge for me.
Yes, let's drop
Um,
anchor on that a little bit for folks that are listening. And
mhm.
you set the stage perfectly. I mean, obviously, you couldn't set any better. Is that you have this personal scenario, it's a medical issue coming in,
Mhm.
and you realize you got to make a lifestyle change, but not everyone has the support to just choose to step back for a while. You're a single mom. I mean, you
Mhm.
have a
Mhm.
daughter that depends on you, you have real bills, you've got things that are
Yeah.
coming in. So you couldn't just take a couple of years off and say, hey, I'll just see what happens. There's a reality in front of you, but I love that that word you use, control. It's control in a positive way, which is, hey, I'd like to
Mhm.
have more of my own responsibility, my own control over my own destiny, so to speak. And so
Yeah.
what was kind of the beginning of that? What was going through your mind? Because you had obviously some time to think about it, you know,
I did.
while things are in
I
front of
did.
you. So how did you begin to process that of what was going to be next in your life?
It's funny. I figured, you know what, what's the quickest way to begin developing an income without an overhead of another industry of some sort? And I knew that the entrepreneurial journey was something that I didn't have great clarity on. I didn't have great insight into. I didn't have any role models or mentors of any sort at that point. Um, so I began searching the internet, scrolling through, looking to see what other people were doing, how other people started their journeys, what other programs or things they could or they were using at that point to begin developing careers of their own. That was the basis of starting. And at that point, that's actually how I ran into you, Rick.
Sure, I know. So you're this learner, you're trying to figure things out, and you needed some things to bridge. So let's just use a baby tangent here and talk about the bridge. So when we first met, it was really understanding your story on how Field Agent allowed you
Yes,
to bridge that gap between the time of
that's correct.
medical unemployment and what you were going to do
Mhm.
next. So speak a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Certainly, that's exactly what I was going to say. That's actually how we came into connection. I, through consuming every bit of content that I could, ran into the Field Agent app. And I realized that there was a way that I could create income through my mobile device. And so I started just testing it, playing with it, seeing what I could accomplish. And that actually allowed for me to create this little bridge, this little bit of extra income, this little bit of extra opportunity that wasn't coming from anywhere else, that I wasn't finding in any other manner. But a light bulb went off. People are able to generate income with a mobile device. Everybody should know this. Everybody should know this. This is not a secret. This is something that we should definitely get out to the masses. This is something that everyone should see. I started telling everyone that I knew of that could use the app, that were interested in something of that sort about the app. I found that it was the gateway for me to begin looking at other avenues of truly creating wealth without the overhead, having that control over my own destiny, and building out those multiple sources of income that also would allow for me to never again leave all my eggs in one basket. Now, of course, as we both know, Field Agent was not going to be the solution, the end all be all. But in terms of sparking that that idea for me, it was that next pivotal point in the journey. Because at the point that I was at, Rick, with a child under the age of 10, no income in the house, no insurance in the house, a chronic illness, it was a very easy point for me to probably give up in life. It's a point where some people will, find it to be extremely dark. And it was. But the Field Agent app was this like bright, shining star that was like, wake up!
I remember us having a
There's
conversation
something
early
else.
on is that, and I see it now. I mean, people obviously watching this have no idea of the confidence that they see in you today and they hear in your voice today.
Thank you.
That I remember early on when we were engaging, I could tell even then it was that spark of confidence that you were getting, which is what you need. It says, hey, I really can be successful without overhead. I love that for any entrepreneur to be able to have success without the overhead, the multiple income sources. And I could tell, again, it's been years ago that you got to see the confidence coming in. So now you're building up the confidence, but you realize this isn't something that you can sustain, but you started getting Lori healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
You started from the medical, doing the things that you needed to do. And then you had that entrepreneurial bug that kind of bit you a little bit. So let's
Mm-hmm.
speak a little bit about kind of pushing through, because you have such a unique journey pushing through this, because you didn't just start you ended up trying several different things, and I would argue
Mm-hmm.
are tremendously successful within the world that you're in
Thank you.
today. And it wasn't an overnight success story. So as people hear us talk, it's like, yes, there's this moment, I'm going to push through. And you know what? I did something the next day and it's over. It really was the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of a journey for you. So let's talk about the first real opportunity you have that kind of got you started on that journey post field agent and other things? What was it that got you started?
So it was a conversation. It was actually a conversation. It was conversation with a close friend about their financial sales practice. Because again, I was in the industry, so there was a network that already existed that I wasn't tapping into, that I wasn't thinking about using as a resource to launch this career. And the conversation made me recognize that there were those in the industry that needed assistance with things that I could easily resolve, problems that I knew the answers to, could save them time with, reduce the effort that they're putting into their own practice, and help them grow their practice. So, did I want to go back into finance? No, but the finance industry still had that network that would that would then support the launching of the career.
So let's drop on that a little bit. I love that aspect of things, that while you were starting new, you still used the knowledge because you spent years learning.
Mhm,
I mean, so you had the knowledge was there. You knew you didn't want
mhm,
necessarily a quote a job in that, but we
mhm,
often forget, and I struggled with this early on in my entrepreneurial career, is to really understand the value of relationships. And for you
mhm.
to go backtrack and say, wait a minute, I have this expertise, I can still use it, I have these relationships. And like a good product manager, product owner, you're saying, what if I go ask these questions
Mhm.
and solve some problems? Next thing you know, Lori becomes the problem solver. So
You
that kind
got
of
it.
started that consulting, practice in front of you, but it's so
Mhm,
much more than a consulting practice. This is, you're not, I mean, it's so much more, but you had to start somewhere. So that was the
right.
beginning. So how did it
Yeah.
begin to evolve? And we'll get to where you are today a little bit later, but how did it
Mhm.
begin to evolve from the next client, and you started to broaden your product offering, if you will?
So it was a recognition again of the other needs in the industry. It was, being in the industry, you're hearing things, you're seeing things, you're being presented with new issues. And so as I continued assisting advisors, more and more things became apparent. One of which was mindset. Starting off in the finance industry, there's certain things that aren't walked through with financial advisors. There's a lot of sales conversations, but there's a lot of back end information that is not necessarily missed, but not necessarily presented in the manner that it could be to allow for a different sort of mindset entering the industry. And looking back at my own mindset and where I was and what I did for myself to pull myself through the negative, dark moments, I used those same tools and started formatting new tools for an industry that didn't have those sorts of tools set up. So I found this unique selling proposition in the industry without walking into the industry with one. I didn't know what it would be. I had no idea as to what that piece would be in the end. It developed through and unfolded over time through working with the multiple advisors. So, and that was really kind of the unfolding of additional product offerings and recognizing, okay, not only do I not, not only am I working with the advisors as a consultant, but there's other ways that I can also create different products and pieces to serve the advisors because there are so many hours in a day, and I can only help so many advisors in a day. And it got to a point where I was again maxing myself out. And it was that max out point again, recognizing that I'm starting to burn myself out, seeing the changes in health, seeing that I wasn't caring for Lori once again, and diving in it. You have to take that step back, reevaluate, and then readjust. And that's really where the product offering started evolving from. So.
I love that we had a similar type of scenario when we launched Field Agent, is that um, I'm working with my business partner, and we're doing this customer marketing work. And
Mhm,
it really was starting to scale, but the only way to scale was that I had to be in more boardrooms. I had to be in more
mhm,
meetings, and I
yeah,
had to fly. And they said, well, since Rick isn't here or Henry's not here, I guess we'll just wait until they get here. And you couldn't scale it. And so
mhm,
I love that, is that you realized again, wisely, that you're getting unhealthy again, which is none of us want to
Mm-hmm.
be there. You reach this maximum potential. It's just you only can do as many hours as Lori can operate. And
Right.
in your world, and we've done this within Field Agent as well, within the services industry, creating products is a fairly new concept. So let's speak to that a little bit. So now you've got this great reputation. People want more of Lori, but you've got to create some products that can actually operate and generate income while you're not physically there.
Mm-hmm.
So did you kind of, as a self-learner, figure that out on your own, or did you have someone pour into you? How did you really begin to scope that? Because that's a totally different business model than Lori showing up. How did you begin to
It
process that?
definitely is. You know what? I rewound the clock. I did what I did when I first started the business, and I began consuming content again in every moment that I had available. So listening to podcasts when I was, windshield time, using all of those resources once again to start recognizing, okay, what did other people do during this next step of the journey? And then hiring on a coach to maintain the accountability and help clarify my own path and really start.
Now, Lori, the coach, hired a coach. Come on
You
now,
got it.
because
You
you're
got it.
pouring into all the people in the financial industry as their coach, helping them get healthy,
That's
helping do all
correct.
these things.
That's
And you
correct.
had the wherewithal to pull back and say, wow, maybe I
Mhm.
need a coach. So what type of person did you look for to be a coach for you?
I looked for someone who was already doing what I wanted to be doing, in terms of coaching, consulting, and building out the brand, and no longer trading hours for dollars, to put it simply. Being there on site, consulting at all times, as we once mentioned, it's, there's only so many hours that I can do. There's only so many people I can help. Um, and even in the one-to-many scenario, if I'm doing, group coaching, because of course, some of those product offerings started off with it being group coaching scenarios so that I could hopefully assist more advisors at one time. But that becomes really difficult because everybody's business is different. And we all know this. So, group coaching, you can only go so far. And it turned into a, a scenario where I had to kind of productize what I was doing with the group coaching. And at that point, the coach helped me to clarify that if I can turn it into group coaching, turn it into a digital program. So removing myself from that scenario and really clarifying those next steps.
So at
So
this time, we're at about 2017, 18 in that
you got it.
range.
2016.
2016 in that range. So
Mm-hmm.
it's digital, but it's a whole new world even today. So we'll get to that in a second.
Yes. Yes.
So you're kind of coming along, you're getting healthy again. You can see where the productization happening, but you didn't stop there. You started taking the product piece, but let's speak a little bit on how you started transitioning into the media world. Was that kind of like your
Mm-hmm.
next step from getting your not only your product but your message out there? So there's podcasts, there's TV, there's other things, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that was the brilliant piece that I saw you take on, was that you were bold enough to step out and say it's more than just having a website and doing something on social. You really
Mm-hmm.
started to blow this thing out. So let's speak to that next couple of years growing into this media magnet that you are today and how that got
Yes.
started.
Yes.
But again, it's a hard leap to do what you just
Mm-hmm.
did.
Thank you. So we'll rewind again back to about 2013, 2014 when you and I met. And that was me looking for ways to come up with a marketing strategy for my existing consulting at that point. I had several relationships. I had that foundation of the practice, but I was still looking to grow and trying to move forward with, the number of clients and growing the practice itself. So that's when I launched the podcast, the original podcast, and I was enjoying the podcast. It became almost a passion project, is truly what occurred. So I was using it as a tool to create content as well as assist other small business owners in creating their content, getting their message out. And the more I did that, the more I recognized that type of assistance realistically wasn't there just yet for most people. So I was moving forward with it, started marketing more and more, started taking courses on digital marketing, understanding what that layout would look like, and launched a magazine, the Flipboard magazine, um, along with the podcast. And we were using those in tandem as our marketing tools and developing most of our marketing around those tools. The audience began to grow, but it was a very slow scenario. And I wasn't seeing the progress that I wanted to honestly be seeing with the show. But I was just enjoying the passion project of it. It was in 2019 that I was asked by the head of a network if I was interested in turning the podcast into a television show.
No, hold on. That's the right kind of phone call to get.
That is
So
the right kind of
your
phone call to
podcast is
get.
there, you're growing, and the media's like, hey, Lori, you want to be on TV and maybe do a cable thing? Just because we thought we would be kind of fun for you to do that. So what was that phone call like?
Um,
Was it intimidating or was it
Exciting.
exciting? Yeah.
It was exciting. It was intimidating. It was extremely scary. I think the nerves kind of shot up. I was taken aback. I was caught off guard, truly, because to me at that point, this was just a marketing tool. This was not my business. This was not what I was actually focused on. And I think we both know that, it was a piece that I was using to the practice. It was not something where it was a great focus for me. Um, so to receive the call, it was a moment of excitement, uh, nerves, but also clarity that there's kind of a greater audience than what I even was
So
recognizing.
kind of affirmational, like
Um,
it was affirming what you intuitively knew, which is this could work.
this could help. This can help people. This can show people what that journey looks like. This can help entrepreneurs get their message out. And this can also help other people possibly come up with the start of their own entrepreneurial journey. So, hopefully, giving other people that opportunity to have greater control in their own lives and showing them what that looks like realistically without sugarcoating what the journey is, without making it seem like it's a bed of roses, without making it seem like ideas pop up and you form a business and jumpstart into success immediately because it's not the way the journey goes. So and so that's what the concept of the show is. The theme is to hear the journey, find the challenges, and create solutions.
Now you're a learner, so you didn't now spend the next 6 months learning all this. This was one of those moments where someone came in saying, I know what to do. You're the content person.
Mhm,
Let me kind of, guide you down the path. So at this point,
mhm,
you're consulting, you're engaging, you've got products, you've had the podcast that's moving on, you've got a magazine. Now you're going to be on TV.
mhm.
And at what point did you ask yourself, is this going to be overwhelming again? Am I going to burn out? I mean, what did you do? Because this sounds like the third big hurdle or third big
Mhm,
move into
mhm.
another all-consuming media. So did you get ahead of this one?
I did. I did not allow myself to go into the overwhelm. Instead, I really started focusing on what it is I walk my own clients through, really kind of paying attention to making sure that I had the right systems set up to support the success that I wanted to see. So it was a matter of really optimizing my own practice in multiple different ways with multiple systems in order to then be able to move forward with the show.
Yeah. And we also often talk about deselecting. It really is prioritization.
Hmm.
So yeah, you now
Hmm.
have 20 things you start to prioritize, and then listen, you're a numbers person. You look at where the math is and what's working and you start to focus there. So now here we are, we're going down this path. Let's speak now about what we're doing today. You've talked all around it,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
Prism and kind of where things are but But if people are like, so I still don't really understand what Lori does. She sounds like she does 20 different things. But even for people that are saying, gosh, but I'm not in the insurance business or financial business, when they look at Lori and you're doing your 30-second pitch, now's your time. What really is the product offering or the solution that you're providing today? What do you want people to know?
So what I truly do for the people that I work with, the people that I encounter, is save time, Rick. Saving time, whether it being going to market, getting out to the masses, clarifying your office, creating those systems and operations and procedures. So I still consult, I still work with financial advisors on a very selective basis. Those are, 2 clients per year, 3 clients per year. I don't really work hands-on with advisors the way I once did. But I still do have the product offerings out there. So the program, the book, the courses are out there for any advisors or small business owners that are looking for that aspect of the consulting. But it's not something that I'm hands-on doing on a day-to-day. What I'm truly doing now is hosting and producing the television show. And we are working on the Prism Method app. So it is a mindset transformation app, and that is something that will be rolling out closer towards the beginning of 2024.
So that's you're announcing it now. You've told other people. I know I'm not first, but you're announcing. But the Prism app, and Prism being again the foundational of the work that you're doing today, and with the TV show, and for folks that want to know the show, if we were trying to really find out more about Lori and how do I track you down and how do I learn more, because you've got a book, we talked about Prism with the TV show. Kind of walk us through folks that want to learn more about you or want to engage. How do they find you? How do they, because it sounds like I've got 10 different ways to engage Lori, but that's not true. So give us a couple of ways, the best way to engage you.
Certainly. So loribrooks.net, super simple. Everything is right there. So you can access the television show, you can access the courses, you can go grab the book. It's all right there. loribrooks.net.
That was so simple, Lori. I love that. So we talk about what's next, which is going to be Prism, which is fantastic. So here's the commitment I need. All right. It doesn't have to be the day after it launches, but would love to have you back on to talk more about what this looks like, because I know it really is an evolution of Lori and what you're bringing on, and would love to hear more about that. So promise me you'll come back again.
Will do. Of course, Rick.
Oh, listen, Lori, it is a pleasure. I'm so glad we could spend this time today.
I thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed getting a chance to kind of look back at that story myself and kind of put those dots there. So much appreciated.
You bet. Thanks for listening to Push Go, a podcast highlighting the defining moments that impact how we live and work. It was great to have Lori on the show today. If you like what you heard, you can find more stories just like this on listen.plumshop.com. And hey, we wouldn't be mad if you left us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, we have new episodes that drop every Wednesday, and if you're watching on YouTube, feel free to like and subscribe. Now, a quick PS, the weekly segment where I give you a brief update on something happening at Plum. Today, I want to put the spotlight on the digital demo product. Digital demos include verified purchases, product experience insights, and true user-generated content. To simplify, you'll get everyday shoppers trying your product and sharing about it organically on their social media. Digital demo, powered by Field Agent, exclusively on plumshop.com. Check it out, and you can use the code PUSHGO, that's PUSHGO, at checkout for $100 off any project.